Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of Operation PlayStation. I'm your host Dash. This week we got some God of War Ragnarok to talk about thanks to PlayStation Australia. But in housekeeping this week, Resident Evil and Silent Hill showcase reactions are live right now on Dash Gamer. We've also got Uncharted, The Legacy of Thieves collection on PC review, Persona 5 a Royal review for PC and Xbox. Horizon Zero Dawn opinion piece. That one's pertaining to the rumored remake that may be landing sometime within the year. Valkyrie Elysium review and some expanded thoughts on a God of War Ragnarok preview thanks to PlayStation Australia. So we're not going to waste time. We're going to be jumping right into this week's news. The first bit of news comes by way of IGN, actually. IGN has some news on God of War Ragnarok, which is pretty cool. So they say, this is Logan Plant from IGN, and they say, God of War Ragnarok has a 120Hz performance mode on PS5, which is really cool. Sony Santa Monica will offer players a lot more graphic options in God of War Ragnarok, as a new report has revealed settings that support 4K 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, and an FPS performance mode that syncs to 120Hz mode on monitors. New gen video games have begun offering multiple modes of playing, with some modes favoring visuals and fidelity, while others prioritize performance and frame rates. He goes on, thanks to graphics mode options breakdown from Press Start, it's been confirmed that God of War Ragnarok supports 120Hz. In a practical sense, this means that it's designed to run with an unlocked frame rate that aims to stay above 60 frames per second. In a statement to IGN, Sony said that the frame rate will vary based on gameplay elements and the world location. The modes listed in the reports are as follows: favor resolution of 4K 30 frames per second, favor performance 60 frames per second locked, favor resolution high frame rate on 4K 40 frames per second locked, HDMI 2.1 required, favor performance high frame rate on, syncs with 120Hz, HDMI 2.1 required. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I did know that, obviously. This is a really cool option that Sony are putting forward now. Obviously, they're patching in a lot of. So what I'm gauging here is that Sony's trying to really push forward kind of like that PC gaming aspect in terms of like refresh rate and high performance. In terms of their visuals on their hardware. Because prior to that, obviously, with the max we've seen on the PlayStation 5 thus far has been 1080p 60 frames per second. Sorry, 4K 60 frames per second, not 1080p. 1080p probably on the the PlayStation 4. But we've seen 4K 60 frames per second on the PS5, which is awesome. And we're finally getting some an example of the power of the PlayStation 5 now and what it's outputting, which is really, really cool. We are getting that in spades on the Xbox as well, but I think that PS5 is pretty much kind of like maxing out its display performance in terms of what it can do in favoring resolution or favoring performance, which I think is exceptional by far, that you can even play 4K 30 frames per second regardless of in terms of an aesthetic visual at a locked frame rate without dips or anything like that. And so that in itself is very impressive, because given the fact that the PlayStation 4 probably would sound like it's about to take off to the stars while playing in a performance mode, not performance mode, favor resolution mode. Performance mode probably would be the way to go if you're playing on PlayStation 4. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Anyway, the next one comes by way of Liam Croft over at Push Square, who says, God of War Ragnarok, over 100 gigabytes on PS4, but 20 gigs smaller on PS5. PS4 users might want to start clearing some hard drive space for God of War Ragnarok, as it's been confirmed by Sony. The game weighs in at well over 100 gig. The install size seems to differ between regions, but as of now, it's 106.9 gigabytes in the USA and 118.519 gigabytes in Europe on version 1.01. Although Sony's Kraken compression tech has shaved more than 20 gigabytes off the file size for the PS5 version, God of War Ragnarok is currently 84 gigabytes on the platform holder's latest system, again running on version 1.01. It's still going to take up a large chunk of space on PS5, especially with an SSD that's only 825 gigabytes in size. But it is good to see one of the console's features continue to reduce installs. Yeah, this was a big notable feature. I remember when they were doing they had Mark Cerny do the whole very ASMR presentation of the PlayStation 5 the first time around, and he mentioned it a few times that the PS5 was capable of size compression and running at a compressed size. So basically, install packets being compressed, kind of like what you would expect out of a zip file when you zip a file, but it's able to run an executable directly out of a zip file. I think a lot of people would know that from if you're playing the old emulators and all that. If when you try and run a ROM, a Super Nintendo ROM out of a zip file, it just automatically opens, even though it's compressed in a zip file. It's kind of doing the same thing. It's basically grabbing packets in droves instead of having to run executables and everything one file at a time, which is, again, impressive. But that's also the power of the PlayStation 5 and running off an SSD. That is how the technology is now running, which, again, impressive. It's now running out of packets instead of just generic one-by-one files, which is obvious that it's just basically, if you were to unzip it, unpack it all, it's going to be the same size. So for example, as you can see, for those who are watching on the screen, the PS4 version is 106.9 gigabytes, right? And the PS5 version is 84 gigabytes. So if you basically do some conversion in that and compress it, it's basically going to be that compressed. So that's pretty cool. Very, very good that it's very, how do I put it? It's convenience. There's convenience in that. And it's very impressive that the PlayStation can read that, basically not having to either grab files and recycle them, or basically just read them real time. There's that thing where it grabs it and caches it, and then obviously dumps it afterwards. But I think what it's actually doing is just kind of like grabbing it from a packet and then just running it, which is great for optimal performance in that terms of range. For those who know that we're speaking technical terms and all that stuff here. But anyway, the next one comes by way once again from Push Square. Sammy Barker over at Push Square, who says a September 2022 MPD replenished PS5 stock sends Sony system soaring. The Last of Us PS5 remake starts strong. So this is in terms of this is very exciting for people who want to actually get their hands on a PS5, because I tell you what, it's about time that Sony started replenishing stock. So PS5 stock is finally on the rise, and Sony is reaping the rewards big time. The new gen system topped the US hardware charts for the second successive month in September 2022, dominating both overall unit sales and revenue. In fact, the console enjoyed double-digit growth year over year, propelled by improved availability. The industry as a whole remains down compared to 2021. However, generating $4.1 billion in the period spanning 27th of August through the 1st of October. In terms of software, Soccer Sim FIFA 23 topped the league, narrowly beating Madden NFL 23, and NBA 2K23, although the latter does not include digital sales. Splatoon pipped The Last of Us Part 1, which did extremely well in 5th position considering the backlash to its price point. Perhaps even more impressive is the retro compilation TMNT, the Cowabunga Collection, debuted in 6, extraordinary for an assembly of an NES and arcade classics. Evergreen first-party titles like Horizon Forbidden West and Marvel Spider-Man continue to sell well, and MLB The Show 22 has once again proven one of the not-so-secret success stories in Sony's arsenal. It'll be fascinating to observe how God of War Ragnarok concludes the year and whether PlayStation can keep enough stock on shelves through Christmas to dominate all important holiday spending period. And yeah, it just lists pretty much the top 20 in each month for September, which basically, I'll just read the top 3. FIFA 23, Madden, and NBA 2K23. And this is for... That is like the top. For PS5, though, it's interesting to note that for PS5 and PS4, I should say, The Last of Us came in at 4th for September. Under pretty much all the sports games. FIFA, Madden, NBA. Yeah. And Saints Row did well considering its mixed reception and everything. So Horizon Forbidden West is still selling pretty well at number 8. Gran Turismo at number 10. So there you go. It's no surprise there. But what's good is that PlayStation are now looking to replenish units, especially now that we're coming up to the Christmas period. They know that people are still, like, we're now hitting 2 years next month. We're going to be hitting 2 years next month, and we still don't have units on shelves. So it's about time that, units hit shelves, people actually get hands on it. And especially now that there's been a price hike with the PlayStation 5, which is just, it's just, I don't want to say anything that's an unmatching term, but it really is kind of just disgusting in a way that there's been a price hike on the PlayStation 5 and people haven't been able to get their hands on one at launch. They're basically putting a premium again on units, and that was a risk in itself when they did it at launch. I don't know whether or not this was planned. I don't think it was, at least, given the fact that the pandemic kind of put pressure on a lot of gaming companies and everything else, but it's just, I don't know. There's something about this that's just not right. And considering the fact that Microsoft haven't even themselves turned around and said, oh yeah, there'll be a $50 increase or anything like that, something's not right. Something is definitely not right there. So I don't know. They could blame it on a chip shortage or anything else, but for me, I'm still not certain that that's what is happening anyway. So for the next one comes by way of Osen. It's an odd name. Ocean Kunk. I think that's how you say it. Ocean Kunk or Ocean Kunk. At GameSpot. I'm sorry if I've said your name wrong. From GameSpot, who says Insomniac's Wolverine is launching in 2023, or at least Microsoft thinks it is. It's unclear why the tech company believes this to be the case. Insomniac's PlayStation exclusive Wolverine game may be arriving sooner than expected, as Microsoft has indicated the game could launch in 2023. This is odd that Microsoft are kind of flagging it for next year. I mean, we've got Spider-Man 2 happening next year. So, have they got separate divisions working on this within Insomniac? I don't know if Insomniac is that big to have like 2 separate divisions working on Spider-Man and Wolverine. I don't even know if they would want to risk having 2 separate divisions working on Spider-Man and Wolverine at the exact same time. Because if that would be the case, this would indicate that Spider-Man would be hitting shelves early 2023. We're talking like Q1. We're talking like the first 2 months at least of 2023 before, like, max probably March, and then Wolverine September, October. So I don't know. This is weird. This is a really weird one for Xbox to even be kind of like focusing on, considering the fact that it's a Sony property and everything. But I know that, obviously this is competition and everything. So, but it's just a really weird one. But anyway, it continues. Marvel's Wolverine was revealed during PlayStation Showcase last year, but it wasn't expected to release anytime soon. However, as spotted by Tech4 Gamers, some recent filings that Microsoft in relation to UK's Competition and Markets Authority's Activision Blizzard acquisition investigation claim that Wolverine will release in 2023. I don't know how they would even get that information. In the document, Microsoft noted how PlayStation has a, quote, large portfolio of high-quality exclusive content, end quote, arguing that the latter wouldn't be massively affected by the acquisition. Microsoft goes on to note the range of exclusive titles coming to the console, saying, quote, PlayStation also has a spate of first and third-party titles lined up for launch in 2023, including Spider-Man 2, Wolverine, Horizon, Final Fantasy 16, and Forspoken, end quote. Insomniac is also developing Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and it assured fans just this week that the game would still be out in 2023, but Wolverine doesn't currently have a release window. That makes the inclusion of this title from Microsoft an odd one. It's unclear if Microsoft knows something that we don't, but it's also just possible that there was a misinterpretation about Wolverine's release date on Microsoft's part somewhere along the line. Look, personally, no, I don't think it's coming out next year. I think this is just a statement put forward by Microsoft in terms of like defense claims for what's happening in the whole Activision debacle. And I don't think that we're going to be seeing Wolverine next year. We don't have really a release window for Spider-Man 2. It's just kind of slated for next year. And, it was interesting to note that they actually put forward, part of that leaked document, put forward that Horizon, the remake, was coming out next year as well, as expected. But I don't know. Wolverine, I don't think Wolverine's out next year. There is no way that they're going to be putting it, like Insomniac are out there crunching developers right now to get Marvel Spider-Man 2 done and Wolverine done in the same year. That's just insane. And I think it would actually hurt PlayStation to release Spider-Man and Wolverine in the same year. They wouldn't want Insomniac like outputting that much in the one term, basically. They would want them kind of like to space out, take their time on development, make sure the game's polished. We're talking about Insomniac here, man. Like, they've just outputted Miles Morales and Spider-Man, and there's PC gamers who are just now getting their hands on Spider-Man as well. So, like, we're talking like a premium AAA quality game here that I understand would want to be the same on Wolverine's part. I don't think they're going to be risking a Marvel property to be, out there and rushed that fast, So unless there's like a directive or something from PlayStation and Marvel, like Marvel would have to step in and be like, no, you're going to take your time on this property. We want this right, just as like they did with Spider-Man, like they'll make sure that Sony has it right. Because Sony do have say on Spider-Man, obviously, because they own the IP, but Marvel, like in terms of entertainment and everything, but Marvel will step in and be like, no, if you want to do this with Wolverine, you're going to do it right. So it's going to be an interesting one to see when Wolverine lands. I am doubtful that we will see Wolverine in 2023. That is a 2024 game. Minimum 2024 game. So, the next one comes by way of Robert Ramsey over at Push Square, who says PS5 users unimpressed with DualSense Edge controller's premium price tag. And now you're talking DualSense. So, there is. Oh God, I was discussing the price tag actually earlier this week with co-founder of Xbox Era, Nick Baker. We were just kind of having a chat, and he said to me, watch, this will be like a $349 deal. I was just kind of like, look, if it is, it's dead in the water. I don't think people are that desperate to have a controller in their hands at 349 Australian dollars. You have got to be shitting me if Sony is going to risk that. If I see a 349 price tag on that thing, I don't even want to consider picking it up. $349 is, like a lot of money now, right now. Considering the fact that we just came out of a pandemic, people are saving their dollars right now. It is not, we are not living in a very cheap economy at the moment. Energy prices on the rise, petrol prices or gas prices, depending where you live, on the rise. It's just, people are not looking for premium right now. Like, they're not looking for premium in their luxury items. They are looking to get cheapest chips, basically. So the fact that Sony raised the price on the PlayStation 5 indicates that there is a possibility that we may look at $349. But if that is the case, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. They're treading very dangerous waters, I'll put it that way. Like, it's just not in the realms of what we want as consumers right now. But anyway, the article reads, the DualSense Edge got a release date earlier this week, but the real headline was its price tag. Realistically, we were expecting the Pro PS5 pad to sell for around £150 in the UK. Also, that's pretty much the standard of comparable controllers. But it's actually going to be even more expensive. It's been pegged at 199 USD, 239.99 euro, 209.99 pounds, and that ain't cheap. So, if I was to convert that in my head right now at 199 USD, that would probably sit around 250 Australian dollars. But then then there's an import tax on top and everything else, where Australia will look like our gaming tax here in Australia will just chuck another $50 on top of it. There's no doubt. Anyway, so they put a poll up on Push Square, and the poll basically came back with the results. Will you be buying the DualSense Edge? 5% at day one. 5%, yeah, I'll probably be buying it. Jesus Christ. 3% at I haven't decided. 23% if I can get it cheaper. 19% at probably not. 46% at no, I'm not interested at all. So this is not like, it's going to be one of those things where even like the Xbox Elite controller, it's a niche product. It's going to be one of those things where you're going to have to be a hardcore fanboy to actually consider even wanting to buy this. I'm a fanboy, but I'm not 349 fanboy. I don't even know if I'm 249 fanboy, if that's going to like kind of, sweeten the deal a little bit, that it's not going to hit $350. If it's going to be 249 and sweeten the deal, I'll sit there, I'll ponder if if it's going to be worth it. Will I get it if it was $200? If it was $200, possibly. I mean, I can't remember how much I spent on the Xbox Elite controller. Sorry, it just, I don't know. For me, I think that it's just too much of an ask right now in our economy right now, where people are earning less and less, and prices on everything else are just going up and up. It's just too much right now. So anyway, we'll see what happens and see what the final price will be when Sony eventually reveals it here in Australia. Because the fact that we still don't know a price in Australia is kind of odd. Like, why can't we know what the price will be here if it's going to be launching in January? We are, less than 3 months away from it, and we still don't know a price tag. Yeah, something like negotiation on price on a recommended retail price listing there is very, very odd. I for myself, I would love to know it right now, so at least I'm prepared to either have, be impressed that Sony are kind of putting in a very consumer-friendly price tag on it will be just shatter my heart right now and just take it away. Take the idea of me even like wanting it away from me right now. I'd rather that. So anyway, the next one comes by way of Kale Adam over at Push Square, who says, NieR Automata's producer threatened to leave Square Enix in order to get the game made. Then basically, yeah, I've heard about this. So basically, it's pretty much what the title reads. Anyway, go on. NieR Automata is a unique game. This actually, before I do, this was very heavily rumored to be the case back in 2017 when the game was getting developed, and I think that that rumor came out and it was quashed by Square Enix. They're kind of like, no, it's not true at all. But now it's like, yeah, it was true. So anyway, NieR Automata is a unique game, and while it's a combination of katana combat, philosophical musings on the nature of existence, and scantily clad androids might not be to everyone's taste, it certainly stands out amidst a sea of service games and multiplayer shooters. Getting the project greenlit couldn't have been easy, especially so many years after the release of the original NieR, which, while a cult classic in its own right, didn't exactly set the world on fire in terms of sales. In a new interview with GameSpot, writer and director Yoko Taro, producer Yosuke Saito, and Giichi Okabe Automata's composer discussed the process. When asked if it was challenging to get Square Enix to give the project a go-ahead, Saito stated, quote, I threatened to leave the company if I couldn't develop NieR Automata, and pushed through internal approvals that way. Honestly, they thought it would only sell 300,000 units globally. So there we go. It was true. Anyway, released in 2017, Automata vastly exceeded sales expectations and has shipped more than 6.5 million copies worldwide across all platforms. So I believe the original rumor that I heard years ago was that because NieR, the 2010 title NieR, didn't sell, gangbusters, they basically turned around and projected a 300,000 units target here for Automata because it wasn't really, it wasn't sold that well. But I think that the reason that it didn't sell well near the original was because of the way that they kind of localized it as well. So if you want to see the original compared to NieR, they changed it so much that it looked unappealing in the West. It just didn't look right. It was a deformed anime looking, so like a deformed otaku look that wasn't quite striking in any way for anybody who really wanted to kind of sit back, play something like that, and experience it. They westernized it to the point that it just didn't fit the mold of one of those very appealing fan servicey anime titles that would really kind of sell. A Bayonetta in some regard, basically. Something that would very much appeal to that Japanese favored audience, somebody who loves their otaku content, anime, manga, that kind of deal. The fact that they stripped all that and made it a very Western part of the catalog, and even changed the title look, changed the protagonist, changed the antagonist, all this stuff, it very much kind of took away the magic of what it became later as NieR Replicant. NieR Replicant is a masterpiece, and I don't know why they ever considered changing it, because if you play NieR Replicant and then you play NieR on PS3, even though it's the same, it's visually much more appealing. So, I don't know. For them, for the director here to turn around and say, no, it's true, I was going to leave. It just kind of sets an example of some of these studios that kind of want to quash some of these controversial statements or controversial rumors that were, pretty much put out there back, I believe it was 2018 Anyway, so it was rumored, and now it's pretty much confirmed. Yeah, they were going to leave because you know Square Enix were pretty much putting a kibosh on it. So, and I don't blame Square Enix in a way because they got projected analytics that state nobody's going to buy NieR Automata based on NieR's performance. But again, I think it's at their own fault that there was, a bad, or not a bad, just a very mixed reception. Maybe even like kind of a false reputation attached to it. But again, localization was terrible on that game. So anyway, the next one, we're going to be talking about the Silent Hill 2 remake. The next one comes by way of Dalton Cooper over at Game Rant, who says Silent Hill 2 remake finally announced as a PS5 exclusive. Konami announces the Silent Hill 2 remake, confirming its development studio as its PS5 console exclusivity status. After years of rumors and speculation, Konami has officially announced Silent Hill 2 remake, confirming the studio behind the project, as well as the fact that the game will be a PlayStation 5 time console exclusive. Konami kicked off its Silent Hill event with the blockbuster announcement showcasing footage of Silent Hill 2 remake, while also providing insight from developers and what the project will entail. The Silent Hill 2 remake is being developed by Bloober Team, the studio known best for games such as Layers of Fear and The Medium. The Medium itself had a lot in common with classic Silent Hill games, so it seems like Silent Hill 2 remake is likely in good hands. Okay, I would argue that. Definitely would argue that. Original artist Masahiro Ito and original composer Akira Yamaoka are also involved in the game's development. For the most part, it looks like the Silent Hill 2 remake will be faithful to the original game, but with updated graphics, important changes to help meet modern standards, like switching to an over-the-shoulder camera and using motion capture for the animations. Okay. Look, here's where I sit with the whole Bloober Team involvement right now with Silent Hill 2 remake. The Medium was an okay game. It was fine. Like we're talking about a game that just kind of sat at the 5-6 rating region. I guess I think it's like 62 on Metacritic, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to quickly look that up. So here we go. The medium for PlayStation 5. So the medium for PlayStation 5 is sitting at a 75. On PC, it is sitting at So hold on. So on PlayStation. So this is the PC rating. On PC, it's at a 75. Oh no, it's also at a 75 on PS5. On Xbox, it has nothing. Okay, anyway, so here we go. On Xbox, it's sitting at a 71. What I remember when it first came out was that it just kind of had it didn't speak volumes to a lot of people. So I think that as long as they kind of tread carefully and remain faithful to Resident Evil 2, which I think that Konami could give a rat's ass. I think they just want to get the IP out there with a name. That's what I think. They want to get it because they know it'll sell because it has Silent Hill 2 on it. They're going down the same path as Resident Evil in terms of like remaking the second one without the first for some odd reason. I don't know. I don't know. I think that right now they've got a bit of a steep hill to climb to sell people on Silent Hill 2, even though there's a lot of fans that will buy it. Just for namesake value. For myself as a skeptic and a critic, I look at it and I go, well, it better be good. It better be good because the original is a cult classic now. Like it didn't really kind of revolutionize anything other than storytelling. for for the time it was out. Gameplay wise, it was very similar to a Resident Evil. So you know, I don't know what they can do any different now to the title in terms of like differentiating itself from what we know of a Resident Evil remake. And I honestly think that's what it is. This is like just basically Resident Evil remake Silent Hill. So I don't know. We'll see what happens anyway. I think after that whole showcase, I'm very skeptical. To what they have in store. And of course, the Silent Hill F reveal at the end of that showcase only aided it. Like it aided that showcase or that transmission, whatever they call it. Because I honestly think they really kind of, there was a bit of a missed opportunity to show what the game will have in terms of gameplay. It was there was some stuff that had in-game engine presentation, very minimal, if the chance that it was gameplay in there, very minimal, like just kind of split-second stuff, but nothing that would sell me if this is going to be the selling point of a Silent Hill 2 remake, other than like fancy upgrades. And I don't even know, it just something set off about the remake to me. But that's just my opinion anyway. So anyway, the next one comes by way of Sammy Barker over at Push Square, who says, ridiculous rumor reckons PS Showcase delayed due to investigation into Xbox Activision acquisition. But he believes it's bull. An outlandish rumor picked up by several, quote, reputable websites claim that Sony has delayed its next showcase due to the Competition and Markets Authority ongoing investigation into Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Given the scale and speed at which the story is circulating, it's important to pump the brakes on this one with haste. Twitter user Millie Ahmad, who alleged to have, quote, leaked Marvel's Wolverine prior to release, claims that Sony has delayed plans for a live stream on October 20, after it felt announcing a new, quote, exclusive titles could, quote, add weight to Microsoft arguments. An investigation is currently ongoing as to whether Microsoft proposed near $70 billion purchase of Activision Blizzard would impede Sony's or PlayStation's ability to compete. Both sides are, of course, playing the victim to regulators. And these are the tweets by Millie. The ongoing CMA investigation for Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard has indeed delayed any showcase plans for Sony. Exclusive titles and first-party IP were locked in. Sony believe the showcase will add weight to Microsoft arguments. Silent Hill and Kojima, Who Am I, were part of the show. The initial announcement of showcase was scheduled for the 11th of October, with the showcase taking place on the 20th. Sony holding firm now. So, look, this whole Activision, competition investigation now. This is a big UK thing. So, I mean, we're at a point where, like, I understand that kind of buying out companies and drawing exclusivities for their, for their respective platforms is going to be a big deal going forward, especially with, a lot of companies like Xbox and PlayStation wanting to possibly look into being a publisher-only company in the future. Because I'll tell you something, they won't be manufacturing PlayStation 25s. Like, PlayStation will be, at some point, will turn around and be a publishing company. Whether we like it or not. I think the only hardware manufacturer that'll stick around at some point will be Nintendo. Because they do things their own way. But Xbox are obviously looking to become a publisher at some point. Just exclusive to, they'll have, like, okay. So let me put it this way: Sony will still output hardware. Will it be a system? Possibly. Will Xbox still be outputting hardware? Possibly. Will it be a system? I don't think so. I think Xbox are actually now going to be starting to look into being either a streaming platform in the distant future or just a publishing platform. Because they're obviously testing the waters right now with xCloud in a way. And also, publishing titles on Game Pass on both PC and Xbox platforms right now. Which to me tells me, okay, we'll see Xbox platforms, but we'll see like a very, very long period before we see an upgraded hardware system put out there. So for me, this whole argument right now between PlayStation and Xbox and, the acquisition of Activision, for Call of Duty purposes and all that stuff, to me, this is like, two kids fighting over a ball in a schoolyard and, one saying that you should be sharing it and the other saying, I own it, Very, very confusing as to why. Okay, I know what the real reason is. Sony are upset because they think that Call of Duty is a player on PlayStation. Let me tell you something right now. When you think Call of Duty, you think Xbox. I'm sorry, but that's just how it's always been. There is a market there on PlayStation that definitely enjoy playing Call of Duty on it. Don't get me wrong, that there is that market there, but Xbox kind of like really stronghold that market. Like there are a lot more people playing Call of Duty on Xbox than what there are on PlayStation. So I don't know. I think if Xbox were to turn around and say it's going to be an exclusive, I think that would hurt them. And I think they know that. But for them to turn around and be like, well, eventually we're going to make Call of Duty an Xbox exclusive, I kind of it's disgusting in a way, but it's also like their choice. They bought Activision Blizzard. They bought them. They own them. They can do that. It's their ball to play with, So anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think that I don't know, it's a very childish case right now. So anyway, the next one comes by way of Derek Strickland over at Twigtown, who says Kojima meets with Sony's Herman Hulst possibly for Death Stranding 2. He goes on, Hideo Kojima recently shared a photograph of himself sharing beers with PlayStation Worldwide Studios boss Herman Hulst. Kojima Productions is pretty busy right now, and the studio is planning both sides of the console market. Following his meeting with Phil Spencer at the Tokyo Game Show, presumably to discuss his new innovative Xbox project, Gaming Auteur, Hideo Kojima recently met up with PlayStation exec Herman Hulst. It's possible that Kojima and Hulst were discussing plans for Death Stranding 2, which is believed to be in development. Remember that Kojima Productions is using Guerrilla Games' proprietary Decima engine for both Death Stranding 1 and 2, and that Hulst used to lead Guerrilla Games. It's also possible that the two gaming icons were sharing info on the new major new upgrades to the Decima engine that were leveraged by Horizon Forbidden West. Nothing has been officially announced just yet, but Death Stranding 2 was originally outed by Norman Reedus, who starred in the first game. I mean, yeah, they could also just be catching up for a beer because they're mates. But yeah, there is something to it. I think that I don't know if there would be any conflict of interest in that right now, considering that Kojima is obviously kind of got his hands in both cookie jars right now. So who knows? But I think that there's definitely more to it in terms of like a Death Stranding 2 development talk. Or even what this new IP may be that was rumored and shown off a little bit at PAX Oz. So I think that I don't know. There may be something to it. I'm doubtful in a way. I think that this was just two mates catching up for a beer. That's just my opinion. But if there were discussions, it was obviously pertaining to Death Stranding 2. So anyway, I mean, What else is there to talk about besides that? Like, it's just, there it is. They're talking. So what? It's no secret that Kojima isn't like, has a preference right now between Xbox and Sony when he's, developing IPs for both, So good on them, I guess. They're sharing a beer. Who cares? The next one comes by way of Kale Adam. This is the last story by Kale Adam from Push Square, who says critics are divided over more than just Gotham Knights PS5 performance. Okay, so I am not reviewing Gotham Knights. I'm not going to be touching the game. I don't think it's worth it. I think I have never really been a fan of, even from its reveal, I just don't like the look of it. I don't like the sound of its development cycle. I think that even just some of the footage that's come out of the game, it really, really is not. Yeah, it it looks bad. It just looks bad. I'm not going to read the entire article because more or less it's more of an opinion piece than news and anything. But Gotham Knights has turned out to be a surprisingly divisive title. I don't think it's that surprising, mate. With sentiment seemingly shifting ever since we learned that despite ditching a PS4 version, the game would only run 30 frames per second on PS5. The fuck? The fuck? This would in turn become a more prominent topic within the PlayStation community once we learned that A Plague Tale Requiem would cap at 30 frames per second. But frame rate isn't everything, and Gotham Knights is more than it's just technical. Its technical performance. Okay, all right. Anyway, wait. I gotta wait. I gotta hold. I gotta hold myself back before I even say anything because this is seriously like. No, it's bad if it's like that. So anyway, the reviews are in and opinions on this one are all over the shop. Surprisingly, so far, you keep using the word surprisingly. It's no surprise. Anyway, the PS5 version of Gotham Knights is currently sitting on a critic score of 69 and the review aggregate site on the aggregate site Metacritic, without outlying scores ranging from a high 95 to a low of 40. Something is going on here that bears dissecting deeper. Liam Croft himself over at Push Square rated it at a 7 out of 5. Game Informer rated it at a 7.25. That's a very odd rating scale. IGN rated it at a 5 out of 10. VGC rated it a 4 out of 5, and Games Radar rated it a 5 out of 10. Look, I've seen footage of the game. It looks bad enough. Like, its performance is all over the shop. You cannot be like, well, look, its frame rate is not like the be-all, end-all of the game. Is the quality of the story and the gameplay and this. No, the performance of the game matters. At the end of the day, it's a visual, it's a visual medium. It's an audio-visual medium. And if it performs like shit, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be critiqued. It needs to be said, hey, there's a problem. But the max score that we've seen has actually come from, out of all this list, has been Game Informer. And then you got Push Square at 7 out of 10. The lowest, Games Radar, which usually are pretty concise. Even IGN giving it a 5 out of 10, that says something. Like IGN to give a game 5 out of 10, that's big. Especially considering its property is a DC property. It says something. It says that, no, stay away from this game, it's bad. For me, personally, I stood away from this game because from initial point of how that game looked in terms of presentation, it looked budget. I mean, I wasn't... even if I were to reach out to review this title, I knew what I would have gotten myself into. But the fact is, I knew what I was going to get myself into if I was going to. But was it a preconceived headspace? Sure. But at the same time, looking at it from the outside in and also noting that the game looked terrible. Actually, sorry. The VGC gave it a 4 out of 5, which in terms of scale is an 8 out of 10, right? So that's probably the top one. But the lowest here is both Games Radar and IGN at a 5 out of 10. But the fact that it's a 5 out of 10 on IGN says something. So for me, I don't know. I'm not going to be taking IGN's opinion. I want my opinion, but I'm not going to review it. Like, this is a game, I'll probably like pick it up at some point and give it a go just to kind of gauge an opinion. But my opinion was pretty much straightforward. I would rather not review a game that I'm already got a preconceived bias towards, which is not good. I wasn't sold. I was not sold on the game at all to even want to review it. So it's very much kind of like a repeat of what happened with Watch Dogs on our website when Watch Dogs initially launched. I knew that it was going to be bad from some of the footage that came out of it. It was bad. It was bad. So, I don't know. This is very much just one of those things right now where I kind of sit here and I go, well, yeah, okay, it's a mixed reception, but I expected this. Like, this is not surprising. The fact that Push Square put here surprisingly to me says that they've got this like Liam Croft reviewed this, but Cale Adam wrote this opinion piece. And to me, there's a supporting aspect there of Push Square being in unison of that score. And that's fine, right? That's their opinion. To me, when they write surprisingly, though, there's no surprise here. There is no surprise. It was going to be mixed. There was going to be people rating it from like a 9 to a 5, even to a 4 in some cases I've seen. The game has problems. The game has problems, and it needed to be addressed from the beginning. So, anyway, that's just my opinion. All right, guys, thanks to the kind folk over at PlayStation Australia. I am reviewing God of War Ragnarok right now. To be 100% honest with you guys, I can't really say much right now. I can't talk about the game too much. The trailer that you're seeing on screen right now, by the way, is of the story trailer that PlayStation now put, so it's already out there. Yeah, I can't really give an opinion. I can't really talk about the story. I can't say much. It's very much just, it's out there. You know what I mean? And people are reviewing it. So the most I can take away from this is like by comparison to God of War 2018, where God of War 2018 was one of the most incredible and visually stunning titles of that year. If anything, deserved a lot of its accolades. It'll be an interesting case to see whether God of War Ragnarok will live up to that expectation that God of War has basically put a precedence on to its sequel. It definitely has a lot of shoes to fill, that's for sure, in terms of what God of War Ragnarok will deliver to fans, basically, and whether or not it'll like live up to that hype and that standard that's basically been put out there by, Sony Santa Monica and PlayStation, and what that expectation will entail. Who knows? But we're at a point now where we're coming home. Like, this is now the final stretch. We're on our way home to people finally getting to experience this title. I think that if anything, God of War Ragnarok has really kind of had a big hype train behind it for a very long time. And where we're going with this game might really kind of dictate the future of the franchise, and whether or not we're going to be seeing Sony Santa Monica continue it past Ragnarok. And whether or not, PlayStation really want, to continue God of War in its current iteration or current form, especially taking away some of the aspects of the story here, shown in the story trailer. There are some hearkenings to the original, which there was teased a little bit in 2018, but more so in Ragnarok, as you can see in the trailer here. So there are some very prominent callbacks, and it's very cool to see that Ragnarok is from gauging from what we've seen in the story trailer, kind of going to deliver, basically. The whole Thor versus Kratos aspect of the game is very cool as well. So personally, I think that when we actually get to that point of, really having our final say of God of War Ragnarok and how it will be perceived by fans, it'll definitely be interesting because I think that I can't really expand too much on it, but I think that when we get to talk about it more on embargo, it'll be one of those things where there'll be a lot of comparisons made between its last chapter to this one, and how how PlayStation 5, if anything, improved on top of what Ragnarok improved on top of what 2018 gave us. And if anything, 2018 is a masterpiece. You can't go past 2018. One of the best games ever in terms of its story, gameplay, presentation. I think it's masterful. I think it's like just one of those games that you cannot go past. If you have a chance, it's now out on PC as well, so you have no excuse. If anything, you should be getting it now. You should be considering God of War 2018. If you have a PC that's capable of, pumping out, some horsepower behind it, it's a game that you should be playing. Especially a great lead-in. If you have a PS4 or a PS5 to play God of War Ragnarok, fantastic lead-in to what this potential. And I say this without any kind of any impact on God of War Ragnarok has had on me. A potential masterpiece that it could be. We're really I haven't played enough to give an opinion. I'll put it that way. I haven't played enough to give an opinion. So my words here today are not of an opinion of the game at all right now. So it's just one of those things where right now we're at we're at the home stretch, and it's exciting. I'm very excited to see what everybody thinks of this game, because it's definitely going to be one of those things that lead the charge for a Game of the Year candidate. We've been spoiled this year by PlayStation. Horizon Forbidden West and God of War in the same year. That is insane. That is so good. We've had other titles as well, but those two first-party PlayStation games landing on PS5 this year is remarkable. But the fact now that we're at the home stretch for God of War Ragnarok, huge. So, yeah, it's going to be exciting. We're at exciting times, that's for sure. But that's pretty much all I can really talk about. There's not much. I'm very, very, they have it like this right now on me. And I'm sure a lot of reviewers and outlets right now. So when I can, I'll come back on and I'll talk about it. I might even bring somebody on with me to talk about it as well. But I want to say once again, thank you to PlayStation Australia for providing a review code. I'll have more to say about God of War Ragnarok very soon. All right, guys, it is time for the drop this week. It's a bit of a list for the next couple of weeks, but I don't think, other than God of War, there's not really much that stands out from this list that I can see. It's a very light list, that's for sure. But God of War is not even on this list. That's right, because it's not that far out. But anyway, so for the next couple of weeks, we have Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord on October 25th. On October 27th, we have a few Signalis. Signalis for PlayStation 4. Saturnalaya, I don't know how to say that name. Saturnalaya. Star for PS4 and PS5. Star Ocean, The Divine Force on PS4 and PS5. Warhammer 40,000 or Warhammer 4K, as some put it, 40K Inquisitor, Arkanoid Eternal Battle for PS4 and PS5, and then Resident Evil Village Gold Edition on October 28th, as well as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on PS4 and PS5, Sharon's Staircase for PS4 and PS5, and then on October 2nd, Shadow Remastered Deluxe for PS4 and PS5. Doraemon, A Story of Seasons for PS5. The Chant This is November 3rd, The Chant for PS5, the Entropy Sensor for PS4 and PS5, Desperate Vladivostok. I think I pronounced that right, actually. For PSVR. That's interesting. Die by the Blade for PS4 and PS5, and Ghost Song for PS4 and PS5. That is the drop for the next couple of weeks. Yeah, like I said, no God of War yet. I read too far down the list, but it's an okay couple of weeks, I guess. Nothing really that's kind of huge, except for Resident Evil Village. If you haven't played it yet, very much excited for the Gold Edition with the DLC there, and obviously Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. The big talk right now between Xbox and PlayStation, the big dispute about crybabying and give me the ball to play and all that stuff. Anyway, that's it for this week, guys. If you enjoyed the show, make sure that you give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a cheeky 5-star rating. That'll surely help. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've decided that we're going to upload the podcast to YouTube again. I was holding off on it on the first episode, but I eventually did and performed well. So I guess that we are going to continue going to YouTube. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, click that bell, give us a like. It'll surely help out the show itself. We'll be back in the next 2 weeks. Like I said, I'm going to try and get somebody on. I'm still waiting for my fixed co-host to get sorted. He should be ready pretty much probably the last show of the year before we go on a bit of a break. I know I'm already considering a break, but we've come back. I think that I might actually do some shows through Christmas solo. So I might actually get my fixed co-host on for one show at least for the year, but we'll see what happens, I guess. I'm not going to pressure anything. If it doesn't happen this year, that's okay. We'll lead into the new year with it. But next week, in the next 2 weeks, I'll get somebody on with me to talk about stuff because I can't say anything. Anyway, guys, until then, thank you so much for listening. This operation is complete.
Gamer.com